Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will be archived on RowellAuctions.com as they are the sponsor of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country, and we've got a lot of topics today. Pretty exciting show, really. A couple of things. We're going to be talking about how real estate professionals can make money with real estate auctions. And so we've got some brokers that are going to be calling in. This is very timely. The Florida Realtor magazine is doing an article on how real estate professionals can make money with real estate auctions. I was lucky enough to be interviewed by the editor, and I'm thrilled that this topic is actually on here today. And that article will be upcoming. Again, that's the Florida Realtor magazine. And, of course, they have thousands of followers in the state of Florida. We also going to have somebody from Fast Path Marketing from Tampa, Florida, who is a marketing professional trying to help us figure out how we can make more money. Let's go to our first call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Douglas.
Well, Steve Rybell, Senior Vice President of Kai's Real Estate Company in Miami, Florida. Actually, it's not really Miami, Florida. It's all of South Florida and more, isn't it, Steve?
Exactly. From basically the Upper Keys, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, and even up in New Smyrna Beach. They're getting closer to you.
Very, very good. Well, you and I have been friends a long time. We've worked together before. I was actually with Kai's Real Estate Company for 4 years, opening an office in Boynton Beach Boulevard, and loved every minute of it. And so it was always great working with you. But we're talking today about how real estate professionals can make money with real estate auctions. And you and I have worked together I'm going to say 4 or 5 times with real estates in the South Florida market, and I wanted to find out how they did and how did Kai's Real Estate benefit. Before I get into my spiel, I wanted you to go to start. And again, before we even start, give us your website, because Kai's is really the name of the game down in South Florida. You do residential, you do commercial real estate. I think you have more than 1,800 real estate agents right now. Mike Pappas, the CEO, is one of the leaders in the entire country, maybe internationally as a real estate person. So give us, how do you get onto the Kai's website to find property?
Well, it's easy. It's Kais.com, and it's spelled Keyes. Keep your eyes on Kai's, Eyes. People do confuse it and look at it and pronounce it Keys. Down here in South Florida, I think they call it Llaves. I think that means keys in Espanol. But whatever it is, it's www.kais.com. And on that site, you have access to all the real estate in the state of Florida. You also have information on luxury properties. You name it, it's on that site. And then if you're thinking of a career in real estate, on that site, too, there's a phenomenal career site that will give you tremendous information about how to get into the business, and also for an experienced associate, some of the things that differentiate the Kai's company. But, yeah, you're right. We've been around since 1926, Doug, and I enjoyed working with you for all those years at Kai's, and then even way back when, probably 20 or more years ago, you and I did work together in the auction industry for a number of years, and cemented our relationship and made a lot of money back then as well.
So how do real estate professionals make money with real estate auctions, Steve?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One is if a real estate associate has a listing that can be sold on a conventional, traditional basis, or why not consider the auction avenue as well to market that property? Some properties, real estate properties, do exceptionally well. Most properties can do exceptionally well in a real estate auction, but you just need to have the right environment, the right seller, the right motivation. And so real estate associates that have properties, sometimes they're unique properties, sometimes they may be hard to sell properties. Unique properties tend to do better in an auction environment. They can contact an auction company and partner with an auction company and put that property up for sale at auction. So that's one way.
Okay.
The other way that you and I have worked together with the Kai's company a number of times is where you brought in the property to Kai's and you needed a local on-site real estate company to handle the showings of that property, et cetera. And so you participated with us, and we worked the buyers that came into that auction, and we earned some dollars off of commissions. In fact, if I go back and I was thinking about this, we've probably done together 4 or 5 large auctions, and some of them included condominium projects, some of them included land and various other things, and we probably earned in excess of $300,000 or $400,000 during those auctions for both the Kai's company and for our associates. So it was very, very profitable.
Well, I thank you for that, and you guys are great. Kai's Real Estate is great. A couple of auctions that come to mind just on the top of my head is Paco Rabanne in Miami Beach was like 100+ condominiums that you helped us sell. Then we had 20 condominiums in North Bay Village. And then we worked with you, and really when we do an auction with you, your logo goes on all the advertising with us. We have people call you people, your agents, directly, but we did a GORE auction with you, which is GORE, government-owned real estate, and in that auction we had SBA, FDIC, RTC, U.S. Marshal Service. You helped us on that, but my favorite is an auction for the GSA. It was down in Homestead. It was a abandoned military post. I think it was in a Coast Guard facility. And we reached out to you, and I remember Bill T-Bolt was the guy down in Homestead that did a fantastic job with his staff. And we said, okay, here's this great 100-acre property, but it's all wetlands, so you can't really develop it. How can we as a team market this? And Bill came up with the idea that, you know what, we should market for cell phones, for satellite, for radio stations. And so that was genius. And I guess the numbers were we need to get to $450,000, and you tell me what happened.
Well, first of all, I think before the auction, I knew that was the number that we needed to get to.
Yep.
But I think we talked about, we'd be lucky if we get $250,000, because who really, would be interested in this property? It is all wetlands, and we did, and I thank Bill for coming up with that great idea, because it really made the difference. And I think we had probably 10 or 12 registered bidders,
yep.
And even the right next to the property was the Ocean Reef Club, and I think somebody from Ocean Reef was there bidding on the property as well too. And when that auction started off, it started off a little slow, and I think I still have the tape of that auction. It is the most exciting auction that I've ever been to, because it went and it started to click, and the numbers went, from 100 to 200 to 400, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $1 million, $1.1 million, $1.2 million, and change. And I think it was $1,250,000 was the final number, $1.2 million. And everybody, the GSA, everybody was just blown away, and that just proved what an auction can do when you have people that see value in a property, and you. What we did is together we target marketed the absolute best market, and we had people competing for that property. It was so exciting, Doug. And I got to say this too: the other way to make money in real estate when you work with Kai's or other real estate companies, our associates, there's residual value after the auction because only one person can buy the property.
Right.
What about all those other leads?
Yeah.
You may have hundreds of leads, and our associates that work those auctions get to work those leads. And I can't even tell you how much money we've made selling people after the fact because they're looking to buy property, and they're great buyers. They're qualified buyers.
Well, it's great bonding opportunities because the buyers are coming in. They're looking, for a bargain. Auctions are always for a bargain, and they go. And this is the chance of a Kai's real estate associate, any real estate agent, to be there to meet them, to give out their card. They've got the logo on the brochure. And then after the auction, you've already got the name, so you call that person back and say, "Hey, so sorry that you weren't the winning bidder. I know you're interested in this kind of property. Are you open to expanding it in another area? What's your price range?" And all of a sudden, you get great value. Steve, we've got another caller on the line, but thank you so much. The website is Keyes, KEYES.com, Steve Rybell, and give us your 800 number, Steve.
Well, I would be happy to give you the 800 number if I knew it. So,
just go
off the top of my head, but if you go to Keyes.com, that's the best way to reach us. All the information is there.
Very
good. So that's Keyes.com. And Doug, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much.
Always. Take care now.
Bye.
You're on the air.
Good morning. This is Willis Miller.
Willis, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Sun's shining in Sarasota, and this is a beautiful day.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for calling. And we did an auction together. I was the auction project manager for a very large real estate auction in Sarasota, but tell us about how to make money through real estate auctions. You're a land specialist, and you are really the land man in Sarasota County, and you are an amazing guy and have had records there as far as selling property. But tell about the auction, how it happened, and how you made money and what kind of money you made.
Well, Sarasota County at one time when things were tougher than they are now, the tax collector ended up with 10,000 lots in Northport. That's no longer happening, but the investors like myself kept picking them off off the county's list of lands until finally they were down to 2,000 that did what they call escheat. They became the actual property of the county.
Okay.
So the county and the city of Northport decided to hire a major auction company to liquidate them, and they did it at just the right time, and they sold, $70 million worth of lots?
I think it was only
I think so, yeah. And the
65,
auction company
70.
that you were with offered a 3% referral fee.
Ah.
And I said, this should be easy money. I'll refer a lot of my friends, including some real estate brokers who really didn't know which lots to bid on.
Right.
Long story short, I referred, and a referral in the real estate industry is one of the easiest way for a realtor to make money. You submit a name and you get money back, and you don't have to do any work other than submit a prospect. It's like finding $100 bills in the street. Anyway, I think my customers bought $4 million worth of those lots out of the $70 million, and you do the math, and you can see how much money that came to my checking account.
Well, you did very well, and I don't know the math, but I think you made almost $100,000.
I think 3% of $4 million is over $100,000.
Very nice.
Those referrals are out there for any realtor to make, and the easiest referral is on an auction. If the seller is willing to sell that property and sell it at auction, it's 100% sure sale. It will sell.
Yes.
And you will get paid a referral fee.
Yes. And how you did it is you registered your prospect with us, and that protected you and the seller. You both had to sign your name on a sheet of paper and fax it in or email it in, and it was it's certainly one of the largest.
Yeah, it was a one-page referral form, and in the local market, people realtors that you know, many times we don't even need to put it in writing, but most offices want a record of it. But I have realtor friends that I'll refer a prospect to on a handshake, and when it closes, I'm paid.
Well,
I think the auction method is the wave of the future, and realtors anywhere can earn a lot of money by looking at finding out who are the progressive auction firms in their area, and refer their sellers to the auction company and make an easy 30% or whatever you agree upon as the referral fee.
Right. Well, it was a pleasure working with you. You made more and you brought more buyers than anybody.
I was awarded a plaque for it by the. I had to go down to the county. It was kind of humiliating to me because I didn't do that much, and they wanted me to come down to the county office and they gave me a plaque for it.
Really? Very good. Very good. Hey, you know, contacts and relationships are everything in this business, right?
Absolutely. And it was interesting that you and I have kept in touch, and
yes,
even though you've moved, we still kept in touch. That's great.
Well, that you got to do that, right? I mean,
right.
Everybody moves on from place to place. That's probably the hardest thing to keep in touch with, you know, good friends, good contacts, good clients as you do move. And tell me more about your company and where you're located, Willis.
Well, I'm in the sort of the semi-retirement mode, and I'm kind of winding down, but I operate from a website called Mr. Landman, MRLANDMAN, and currently my inventory is low because we've sold a lot of lots in the last while. Southwest Florida, vacant land is just ready to pop.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a tremendous. Someone just recently emailed me and said, if you own vacant lots in Southwest Florida, you should be smiling right now. And there are thousands of lots that are owned by people who are tax delinquent and who will be selling. So the realtors are getting a lot of good deals on available on vacant lots. Northport itself has about 30,000 vacant lots and is positioned very well between I-75 and the Gulf beaches. Lehigh Acres is east of Fort Myers. It's also has a lot of lots, not so good. And Cape Coral has many vacant lots, I would say better. But in any of these places, if you can pick up vacant lots for 10% of the cost of developing a lot,
mm-hmm.
they certainly are going to be a solid investment in the next 5 years, especially if we're looking at some really uncertain times as far as inflation. So I think the time to buy vacant land is right now. That's what I'm working on right now, is to refill my inventory.
Well,
Although I'm a broker, I do generally act as a principal. It's easier to acquire lots and put them on a website and make what I call the equivalent of a pat commission. Makes it easier for buyers to buy a group of lots from one source rather than to shop around and pick up one at a time.
Well, you did a wonderful job at that auction, and since then, you actually gave me a lead to a bank that had a large property, a land property, and they're not ready yet, but once they are ready, you and I can work together again in a different mode. We'd become the sellers and market it. And again, when you work on that selling part of doing a real estate property, you can also get buyers who come in, and there's been many auctions that somebody was afraid of the auction and wanted to buy it beforehand, and we've actually sold properties prior to the auction, and prior, so we could get it out the word to tell everybody that it's already been sold. But it's an amazing, and I appreciate you saying that the auctions are the wave of the future, and again, I appreciate that. What is your...
It's a little different. Older people think of going to an auction and standing in the crowd. Younger people think of an auction of going online and with a handheld, an iPhone, and bid on the iPhone. It's a whole new world.
It is a whole new world. What is your website again, Willis?
It's www.mr for Mr. No period after Mr. Landman, LANDMAN.com.
Very good, Willis. Thank you so much for calling in. It was a pleasure to work with you back then, and hope we can work in the future.
Same to you. Have a great day.
Take care, Willis. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that's how you can work with an auction company if you're a real estate professional and make money with real estate auctions. To go through it one more time, you can make money by registering buyers for an auction, which Willis Miller did, and he made more than $100,000 just by registering buyers for this big auction for Sarasota County and the city of Northport, Florida, where we sold $65 million. He said 70. I don't think it was that high. $65 million worth of land property, lots, and there really were. I'm going to say the average was $30,000 to $40,000, and so a lot of lots. In all, it was more than 1,800 lots, and it was a fantastic way to sell. And again, this was county and city getting together to sell more than 1,800 properties through the auction because it's the fairest and the most transparent way, and they were extremely happy. And then Steve Rybel called in, and in his way, what we did was I called Steve and said, listen, we've got an auction coming up. We need a real estate company that can help us with private showings, inspections. We need the credibility of a name that everybody knows and trusts in the area, which Kai's Real Estate certainly is. And then you can also register your buyers. We'll pay you for helping us market the property, but you can also register your buyers. And I believe he told us that the Kai's company, through 3 or 4 auctions, specifically one that was pretty exciting for the GSA in Homestead, Florida. Bill Tebow, thank you again. And the real estate company, through those 3 or 4 auctions, made more than $250,000 in referral fees. So that's how you make money. If you're a real estate professional with real estate auctions, we are going to take a break. We've got exciting things coming up. We're going to be talking to a professional marketer who's going to help us, and he's a columnist with the Florida Trend magazine, which is pretty cool. And we've also got auctions that we want to talk about. And I went to Washington, D.C. Stay tuned, but let's go for a quick break. All right, we are back, listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison. In the first half of the show, we talked about how real estate agents can make money with real estate auctions. And 2 people called in. Stephen Rybel, Senior Vice President of Kai's Real Estate Company from Miami, Florida, actually all of South Florida, 1,800 real estate agents, said that he and his company made more than $250,000 through auctions that he and I work with. Very impressive. And then Willis Miller, we call him Mr. Landman, and that's actually his website. He's a land specialist in Sarasota, Florida, and he made more than $100,000 just by registering buyers at one auction that we did, just one auction that we did in Sarasota County for 1,800 real estate lots that we sold individually. He was quite excited. He said that auction is the wave of the future, and I thank you for that, Willis. All right, we're going to be talking to Ron Stein. He's the president of Fast Path Marketing and a columnist for Florida Trend Magazine in Tampa, Florida soon. But quickly, I was up in Washington, D.C. this week. Just as one of the highlights, I had many meetings, but one of the highlights was with Velvet Johnson, who, we've been talking about these 14,000 properties, and she was great. She's a counselor. She's working with Senator Carper. She has another bill that may be helpful in getting these 14,000 properties sold. It's in the Senate, S.2178. All right, we've got another call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, this is Ron Stein. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, Ron, and you and I have never met.
That's correct, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, but I very... an active reader on the Florida Trend magazine, and saw an article that you did, and I said, I've got to have Ron on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ron.
Well, thank you. I work with small businesses. I help them, what I like to call, get unstuck. What I do is I translate the art of sales and marketing. A lot of people are intimidated by that, but I translate that into practical strategies and tactics that drive revenue. I mean, that's my whole focus. How does a company, small or large, make money?
Well, you're being humble here, or modest, because I'm looking at some of the things you've done. I've got some information from the website. You're the president of Fast Path Marketing, and you have been in the Tampa area, but you're a columnist for Florida Trend Business Magazine. You've been a guest lecturer at University of Florida's Warrington College of Business Administration. But you've had leadership roles that included CEO, vice president, senior vice president, director of corporate marketing, regional sales director, Motorola, video server, Paradigm Networks. I mean, this is big time. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain, and for our listeners, and again, just so that you know, our radio show mission statement is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. Our listeners are real estate agents, investors, banking officials, government officials, bankruptcy attorneys, the media, and the general public, and everybody needs help in marketing.
That's exactly right. In fact, I work with several real estate companies, both small and large. Among other types of clients, I work in all kinds of fields, from high tech to professional services. But the one thing they all have in common is catching the attention of their market. First understanding who their market is and what drives them emotionally and otherwise, and then, well, how do I catch their attention? I mean, in today's world, you've got a lot of companies out there, that claim they do the same thing your listeners do, and they'll always claim they do it better, but that's not necessarily true. So it's confusing for that person who's sitting across the table from you, either literally or not so literally because it's a web or it's an email. And what do you say, to catch their attention and go, aha, you're different. I need to continue to listen. Because the truth of the matter is that person really doesn't care about you. They only care about their own problems and how to solve them.
Well, it's very interesting, because I believe we're in a place now that we are just inundated with all kinds of information, and you almost have to tune some of it out you go crazy. I mean, it's the TV, it's the internet, it's the radio, it's people talking to you, it's things that you've got to do. It's the newspaper, it's the magazines. There's so much information that's being thrown at you all the time. You've really got to focus, and if you're trying to sell something, you've really got to grab them by the shirt and say, "Hey, this can provide benefits for you." So,
Doug, that is so right, and that's the a big mistake people make is they figure, well, if I'm going to catch the attention by telling that person, my prospect, how great I am, and that will come, but at first you hit it on the head. You've got to talk to what's important to your prospect. And yes, say, something that's important to them and unique to you, but you don't necessarily say, oh, and by the way, that's unique to me. But that's what you have to make those two things match. And of course, it's got to be something you can defend as you start talking about your uniqueness. And it should be obvious that you've got the passion and the competency for the area you're talking about. And that's how you position yourself. In fact, you can write a great positioning statement that explains who should use it, because that's your target market. I mean, we all like to believe, whatever field we're in, real estate or otherwise, that, hey, everyone should be an investor, everyone should do an auction.
Right.
That's not necessarily true. And
true.
You've got to target your message.
Well, you really do, and I appreciate that. Tell us more about your background. I gave you, the quick bio, but you've been a leader in the sales industry for a while, and really had top key positions. What do you look for? Because I know you've been in a place where you hire people, and it's your job to find somebody that either has the talent or you can mold them into having the talent, because sales is not easy. What are some of the attributes for somebody that you might consider hiring?
Well, you always worry about not so much is this person competent, can they do it, but sales is tough. I mean,
right.
Marketing and sales is a field where you get rejected a lot of times.
Yes.
Where your message isn't heard, and you need resilient people. You need people who have a fire in their belly and really believe in what you're doing, and then, of course, what they're doing to help you and the company make money. That doesn't mean an over-the-top, in-your-face type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to see someone that has the passion and, of course, the intelligence, and depending on what you're doing, a little experience and background. But the experience doesn't necessarily have to be in your field. Just look to make sure it's transferable skill sets.
A good point. Very good point. And, I was going to ask you about that, but you already kind of mentioned it. You don't need to be type A to do it, but you do need to be able to communicate. And
absolutely.
And I know you've done stories on that, and again, you have a great column in the Florida Trend business magazine. But how important is to keep these relationships? Because it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, people are moving, they're going. Their numbers are changing, their email addresses are changing. But these are people that have showed interest in your product and your service before. How do you do that to maintain those relationships? And because if you don't, you're going to lose out.
Well, one of the people, your prospects fall into two basic categories. If there's interest, but they haven't purchased yet, or you've been lucky enough, you've been skillful enough to turn them into from a prospect to a customer.
Right.
Either way, you need to retain that person. You need a keep in touch strategy. And you can't jump ahead of yourself. It starts with real conversations with that person, education. Show them that you've got the expertise, even if they're not willing or ready to do business with you today. Stay in touch. Send them articles. Don't make it about, me. It's
right.
about them.
Right.
If you know who they are, you know they can use some education, and especially in an area like auctioning and, high-stakes real estate that your listeners tend to be involved in. I mean, the average person gets, their heads kind of start spinning. So education. And I market by education. I think that's such an important skill set. Content marketing is so important today, whether that's through a newsletter, whether it's mailed or online newsletter, an occasional phone call. And you got to be constantly judging, if this person is ready, not ready. And if you're doing something online like a newsletter, you keep them on. They will remove themselves if they're no longer interested.
Right.
However, if you're sending them good information, and once they become customers, don't ignore them. They still need education. They still need hand-holding. They still need to be loved once in a while. It's all emotional, and don't let a potential competitor sneak in there because you ignored them. So you just got to stay. It's a stay-in-touch strategy.
Well, I've always thought that the people that you've done business with and thought you did a good job, these are such a source of new business. And, maybe some people are thinking, okay, I made a buck from him, I'm going to go on to the other 1,000 leads that I have. But if you've made a sale with a person, if it's in real estate, if you're a real estate agent or an auction firm or an auction agent, I mean, man, this is somebody to stay in touch with, because isn't it cool to have somebody that's already done business with you say to one of their friends, hey, you should really use Ron because he did a good job with that. That's worth so much money, and you can do a sale to that person so much easier than cold calling somebody else.
Doug, again, you nailed it. Your readers might be interested in a column I wrote, maybe only a month or 6 weeks ago on that particular subject, how to ask for testimonials and referrals. And some people are afraid to ask. Some people don't know how to ask, and it's really easy. But you're right. If you get both, and those two things aren't necessarily the same, a testimonial and a referral, but they're very closely related, and people should be constantly trying to get both.
Well, you need to email that to me, because I believe in that so much. And also, you need to give me your contact information right now, just so we don't forget. How can people get a hold of you or find these columns and that particular column that you did that is very, very important to salespeople?
Well, first of all, my phone number is 727-398-1855. My website is www.marketing-strategies-guide.com. And by the way, the reason the dashes are there is a little SEO trick, but we won't get into that now. To help the search engines find me.
Oh, really?
So even though the name of my company is Fast Path Marketing, people aren't going to be searching for fastpathmarketing.com because, well, they don't know me. But they will be searching for marketing strategies and guides to how to market better. Hence the name of my website, marketing-strategies-guide.com. And the dashes actually help the search engines a little bit to see those words. Anyway, if you go to my website, on the right-hand column, you'll see a link to Florida Trend Magazine. And that link will take you to the archive of my articles. And you'll be able to see my columns there. Also, I have a lot of information on my website. I have a lot of articles there as well, and to try to help people with their marketing and sales.
Well, that's wonderful. Let's get back into the education part of providing value added, to provide information to that potential client or that past client so that they can stay in touch with you. I had a friend when I lived up in New England. He sold hospital pharmaceuticals and then went into hospital equipment. And I said, and he called on doctors all the time. And I said, I said, how do you get a hold of doctors, and how do you spend time with doctors? Because, you know, they're so busy. I mean, I try to get a doctor's appointment, and I sit in a waiting room for, you know, an hour. And he said, it's all about the information that you're providing. You're not really selling. They are so busy that they need you to provide them with information that can be beneficial to them. And I thought, you know, this is 30 years ago, and I still remember it.
Well, and it's still true today, especially as you pointed out earlier, Doug, with all the noise out there,
yes.
You know, the confusing messages. You know, the truth is you can generate leads with value and education, and you can keep existing clients on board with, you know, by constantly providing value. And a lot of that value comes through education, although that's not the only way to provide value. But you're right. You first of all, they appreciate it. They remember it. But it also separates you because it makes you more of an expert, and people want to deal with their experts.
Yeah, you are exactly right. I always remember the definition of an expert is somebody that got off an airplane with a briefcase. In my line of business, anyway. But value added in regards to education is so important. Listen, Ron, I'm going to want to have you on again another time because fascinating stuff for my listeners. Tell us how we can get a hold of you one more time, Ron.
Okay. Well, again, my phone number is 727-398-1855, or you can email me at ron@fastpathmarketing.com. Fast as in fastpathmarketing.com. I do one-on-one coaching. I do a lot of workshops, both public and private, for companies and their marketing executives and sales executives. And I do whatever I can to help companies really fast forward their revenue success.
Ron, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to have you on the show again, and I'm very happy to meet you over this phone line and this radio show.
Well, thanks, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity, and come on over to the Tampa Bay area when you have a chance, and we'll have a beer together.
Sounds good. Hey, take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Ron Stein, president of Fast Path Marketing and columnist for Florida Trend Magazine. Let's go for a quick break.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
Okay, we're back. I was talking a little bit about I've been in Washington, D.C. all week. If you've listened to this show before, there's 14,000 government surplus properties that are out there. The House has a bill that's been passed. The Senate is tweaking it. The Senate... I was there. One of the highlights of my 4-day trip was meeting with Velvet Johnson. She is the counsel on the Subcommittee on Federal Financial Management, Government Information, Federal Services, and International Securities. And that subcommittee comes from the United States Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs. And I sat down with her for... it was about 40 hours. She was 40 minutes. She was very gracious. And she talked about Senator Carper's bill that he's putting forth in the Senate. It's called Senate Bill S.2178, and it has a little bit of a different twist than H.R. 1734 that Congressman Denham has put forth. But one of the things that they plan to do is that 80% of the property value would be going to the Treasury for debt reduction, and then 18% would go back to the agency. Let's say the FBI was selling a building, or the court system was selling a building, and then 2% would go to fund homeless assistance grants. So very, very interesting, and I want to thank her on my show for being so informative. We got a new caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Dennison. Tommy Rowell, Rowell Auctions. How are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Rowell. And for those who don't know Tommy Rowell, again, is the CEO of Rowell Auctions, which has been around for more than 75 years. Thank you for calling in. You sponsor this program and have been an inspiration to me. I was just talking about the fact I was up in Washington, D.C., and one of the highlights was meeting with Senator Carper's staff about a new bill that they have that's a little bit different than the bills we've been associated, because we've been up there a couple times, Tommy, as you know, and we're trying to push these 14,000 government surplus properties. Why don't you talk a bit about that and why it's important to the American taxpayer?
Well, Doug, those 14,000 surplus properties that are currently owned by the government and they're classified as unutilized properties, they're costing the taxpayers billions of dollars on an annual basis for holding costs, for the heating, electrical bills, for security. So the intent of these bills simply is, number one, to liquidate these properties and put those monies back to work in the government, hopefully applying them against the deficit. But most of all would be to stop the bleeding that is occurring on an annual basis. Boy, we've somehow got to reduce the size of our government a little bit, let it so it can run more efficiently, and that's what Senator Copper is certainly trying to accomplish with his bill.
Well, you and I were also down in Miami about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. Tell us what happened there.
Well, we were there at a hearing, congressional hearing that was handled by Representative Denham,
yes,
and Representative Micah from Florida, and it was located in an unused federal courthouse, a beautiful facility in the heart of Miami, and it's sitting vacant currently, and it has been for several years, and it is costing the taxpayers $1.5 million every year that it sits there. And of course, GSA was represented there, and they basically doing the hearing on why that property has not been taken to market or either utilized, and it was really brought to light that the taxpayers were paying just a huge sum to keep that building alive and well, and it had the mildew smell inside. It's just the vacant building smell. Of course, still had security on the building, and all the lights and utilities and such were still running. So, again, that's just simply a waste of taxpayer dollars. And that's what we've really got to work on in America today.
I agree, and I've talked to GSA before, you and I have, and the thing is that they have to go through so many procedures and offer these buildings to other federal agencies and the homeless, and got to check out wildlife preserve and preservation and historical preservation, and all of this takes time and effort, and meanwhile the building sits. So maybe the thing is to alleviate some of these things that the government has to do, and maybe we can get to sell it quicker. Let's move on and talk about real estate auctions. Rowell Auctions has been doing huge amount of properties just in the last 2 or 3 months for banks and other institutions, And a lot of these have been internet absolute auctions. Why are banks, again, hundreds of properties, why are banks agreeing to do absolute auctions, Tommy?
Well, simply because, Doug, many of these properties that we are selling were acquired from a failed bank, and they were acquired with a loss share agreement with FDIC, which means FDIC is in order for the bank to liquidate that portfolio of loans, the FDIC agreed with the bank that they would take a certain portion of that loss that the bank would sustain, and that's simply the easiest way for FDIC to handle that failed bank. Well, those agreements were timed agreements. They're generally a 5-year time period on many of the assets, and that time period is ticking off and coming closer to the end. And when the end of these loss share agreements occur, then the bank has no coverage from the losses sustained in that portfolio.
Tommy, I cut you off because we're going to end the show, but RAL Auctions, lots of properties, RALauctions.com, 800-323-8388. Thank you, Tommy Rowell, and we'll see you next week.